Did you know that every year thousands of people vanish without a trace? Some say it's the work of the supernatural. But do you believe in ghosts? Today I'm about to share a horror story that will send chills down your spine. It's a tale filled with eerie events and unsettling mysteries that will leave you questioning everything. Buckle up, because things are about to get creepy. In a small, remote town nestled deep within the woods, a series of unexplained disappearances began to plague the community. Townsfolk whispered about the Whispering Woods, forests that seemed to come alive at night. People claimed they could hear voices calling their names, luring them deeper into the darkness. One fateful night, a local teenager named Sarah decided to venture into the woods with her friends. They laughed and joked at first, but as they walked deeper, the atmosphere shifted. The trees loomed over them, casting haunting shadows. Then Sarah heard it, a soft whisper, calling her name. Confused and frightened, she turned to her friends, but they were gone. Just like that, they had vanished into thin air. What happened to Sarah and her friends? Was it an elaborate prank, or was something sinister at play? The town was left in fear as the mystery of the Whispering Woods grew darker with each passing day. As the days turned into weeks, the town was consumed by paranoia. People began to avoid the woods altogether. The whispers continued. Local folklore claimed that the woods were cursed, haunted by spirits of those who had disappeared. Sarah's parents, desperate for answers, sought the help of a local historian, Mrs. Reynolds. She revealed the chilling history of the Whispering Woods. How decades ago, a group of settlers had vanished without a trace, leaving behind only tales of their screams echoing through the trees. Determined to find their daughter, Sarah's parents organized a search party. Armed with flashlights and a flicker of hope, they delved into the darkness. The deeper they went, the more unsettling the atmosphere became. Shadows danced around them, and whispers filled the air, urging them to turn back. The search party stumbled upon an abandoned cabin, its windows shattered and doors ajar. Inside, they discovered remnants of a life once lived, a diary belonging to Sarah. Each page told of her growing dread as the whispers became more persistent, revealing a chilling prophecy: those who listen will never return. As the search party read the final entry of Sarah's diary, the whispers crescendoed into a deafening roar. Suddenly, the ground trembled, and a dark figure emerged from the shadows. It was Sarah. But she was different, her eyes hollow, her voice echoing the whispers that had haunted her. In a shocking twist, she revealed that the woods had claimed her friends, and now they were part of the forest, trapped in an eternal cycle of despair. The figure moved closer, and the search party felt an overwhelming urge to join her, to listen to the whispers that promised solace. But just as hope seemed lost, Sarah's parents reached out, breaking the spell. They reminded her of the love they shared, of the life waiting for her beyond the woods. In that moment, the dark presence faltered, and the whispers faded into silence. The figure dissolved into the shadows, leaving Sarah free, forever changed. She would never fully escape the grip of the Whispering Woods. In the end, the townspeople learned that some mysteries are better left unsolved. The Whispering Woods remained, haunting reminder of those who had vanished, and the chilling tale of Sarah and her friends echoed through the town for generations. The fear and dread lingered long after the search party returned, leaving everyone to wonder, were the whispers truly silenced, or would they rise again, calling more souls into the darkness? So what do you think? Would you dare to enter the Whispering Woods? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to check out another chilling tale from our channel. Stay spooky, and I'll see you next time.
The entity in the attic. The old Victorian house had stood for over a century, silent sentinel on the edge of town. It had a reputation, a whispered history of strange occurrences, but to young, thrill-seeking Alex, it was an irresistible challenge. Armed with a flashlight and an overactive imagination, Alex crept into the house one stormy night. The wind howled outside, a haunting symphony that echoed through the empty rooms. The house seemed to breathe, wooden bones creaking and groaning. As he ascended the grand staircase, a chill crept down his spine. The attic door stood ajar, a shadowy, inviting void. Heart pounding, Alex stepped into the darkness. The attic was a sprawling, dusty expanse, filled with forgotten treasures and shadows. Cobwebs draped from the rafters like ghostly curtains. As his eyes adjusted to the gloom, he began to notice strange shapes in the corners. They moved, or so it seemed. His mind played tricks on him, conjuring grotesque images. Then he heard it. A soft, scratching sound, like claws on wood. Fear, cold and sharp, gripped him. He turned, the flashlight beam cutting through the darkness. And there in the corner crouched a creature. It was humanoid in shape, but its skin was pale and translucent, its eyes black pits in its face. It watched him, unblinking. A low growl rumbled from its throat, a sound that seemed to vibrate through his bones. Terror seized him as the creature lunged. Alex awoke with a start, the house silent, the storm long past. He was alone in his room, the morning sun casting long shadows. But as he looked out the window, he saw something that chilled him to the bone. Figures stood on the roof of the old Victorian house, watching him. Its face was obscured by shadow, but its eyes glowed with an unnatural light. The figure on the roof vanished as quickly as it appeared. Alex stood frozen, his heart pounding in his ears. Days turned into weeks, and the image of those glowing eyes haunted his dreams. He became obsessed with the old house, drawn to its sinister allure like a moth to a flame. One stormy night, unable to resist the pull, he returned. The house seemed to welcome him, its creaking boards and rattling windows a familiar, comforting sound. He climbed the familiar stairs, his footsteps echoing in the silence. The attic was unchanged, a cavern of shadows and forgotten memories. As he stepped inside, a cold draft swept through the room, carrying with it a faint, sickly sweet scent. And there, in the corner, was the creature, its form more defined in the dim light. It was taller than a man, its body elongated and skeletal. Its skin was a sickly gray, stretched taut over its bony frame. The eyes, those haunting black pits, seemed to glow with an inner fire. A low growl rumbled from its throat, a sound that shook the very foundations of the house. It lunged, its skeletal hands reaching for Alex. In that moment, time seemed to slow. Alex could see every detail of the creature's grotesque form, the sharp claws, the inhuman strength. Then, darkness. When he awoke, he was back in his bed, the morning sun streaming through his window. But something was different. He felt a change within himself, a darkness stirring in the depths of his soul. And as he looked out the window, he saw the old house, its silhouette against the morning sky. The attic window was open, and a figure stood there watching him. It was the creature, its form distorted by the rising sun, but its eyes, those black, burning eyes, were unmistakable. Alex was a changed man. The encounter with the creature had left an indelible mark on his soul. He was consumed by a thirst for knowledge, a desperate need to understand the nature of the entity that haunted the old house. He spent countless hours in the library, poring over ancient texts, searching for clues. He discovered a hidden room, a secret chamber filled with strange symbols and diagrams. It was a world of shadows and secrets, a realm where the boundaries between the living and the dead blurred. As his obsession deepened, so too did the entity's presence. It began to appear more frequently, its form growing more solid. The house became a battleground, a silent war between man and monster. One night, as a storm raged outside, the entity made its move. It emerged from the shadows, its eyes burning with a malevolent intensity. Alex fought back, his fear transformed into a primal rage. The battle was brutal, a clash of flesh and spirit. When the storm finally subsided, the house was silent. Alex stood alone, surrounded by the wreckage of his struggle. The entity was gone, but so too was a part of him. He had glimpsed the abyss, and it had looked back. In the aftermath, Alex became a recluse. He avoided people, fearing that they could see the darkness within him. The old house on Hemlock Hill stood empty, a haunting reminder of what had transpired. Some said they saw lights flickering in its windows at night, and whispers of a shadowy figure continued to circulate through the town. Alex knew the truth. The entity was still there, dormant perhaps, but waiting. And one day, when the time was right, it would return, and when it did, the world would tremble. Would you like to hear another story? Dare to subscribe? Your sanity depends on it. Like this video to summon the next chapter. Share this to spread the terror, or become the next victim. The Dollmaker's Curse. In the heart of a forgotten town, nestled among the shadows of towering oaks, lived an old dollmaker named Silas. His workshop was a macabre gallery, filled with porcelain faces staring blankly into the void. Locals whispered of his creations coming to life at night, their lifeless eyes filled with an eerie glow. Young Sarah, a skeptic by nature, scoffed at these tales. Curiosity, however, proved to be her undoing. Drawn by a morbid fascination, she ventured into Silas's workshop. The dolls were more unsettling up close. Their eyes seemed to follow her, their porcelain smiles twisted into sinister grins. One doll in particular caught her attention. A small porcelain girl with haunting blue eyes stared at her with an intensity that chilled her to the bone. Sarah felt an inexplicable urge to take her home. That night, strange things began to happen. Doors creaked open by themselves, shadows danced on the walls, and a chilling whisper echoed through the house. Sarah dismissed it as a trick of the mind until she woke to find the doll sitting on her bed, its eyes glowing in the darkness. Fear gnawed at her as days turned into nights. The doll became more than just an object. It was a malevolent presence. It moved, it watched, and it seemed to grow stronger with each passing day. Then the nightmares started. Vivid, terrifying dreams of the Dollmaker's workshop, the dolls coming to life, their porcelain faces contorted in rage. Sarah woke up screaming, drenched in sweat, her heart pounding in her chest. The doll was no longer just a doll. It was a portal to a realm of darkness, a conduit for something evil, and Sarah was trapped in its grasp, prisoner in her own home. Desperation gnawed at Sarah. She couldn't live like this, prisoner in her own home. Armed with a newfound courage, she decided to confront the evil that had invaded her life. The doll, its porcelain face eerily serene, sat on her dresser, a silent sentinel of terror. With trembling hands, she picked it up. Cold sensations spread through her body as she held the doll close. A whisper, cold and menacing, echoed in her mind. "You cannot escape me." Then the lights flickered and died, plunging the room into darkness. Chilling presence filled the air, and Sarah felt a cold touch on her arm. Fear, raw and primal, consumed her. She screamed, her voice a desperate plea for help. When the lights returned, the doll was gone. A sense of relief washed over her, but it was short-lived. A dark, growing shadow stretched across the floor, creeping towards her. It was the Dollmaker, his eyes burning with an unholy fire. A battle for her soul ensued. A silent war fought in the shadows of her mind. The Dollmaker's whispers filled her head, tempting her to join his dark world. But Sarah fought back, clinging to her humanity, to the light within her. Finally, with a surge of strength, she broke free from the Dollmaker's grasp. The house shook as if in protest, and then silence. The Dollmaker was gone, but so was a part of Sarah. She was scarred, forever changed by the encounter. The doll reappeared, but it was different. Its eyes held a sadness, a longing. It was as if a part of the Dollmaker's soul was trapped within it. Sarah felt a surge of compassion. She couldn't abandon it to the darkness. With trembling hands, she placed the doll back on the dresser. A sense of peace washed over her. House was still. The shadows retreated. The nightmare was over, or so she hoped. But as she looked out the window, she saw a figure standing in the shadows of the old oak tree. It was the Dollmaker, watching her, a sinister smile playing on his porcelain face. The story was far from over. The days that followed were a fragile peace. Sarah lived in a constant state of unease, her senses heightened, always listening for the slightest creak or whisper. The doll remained on her dresser, its porcelain face a haunting reminder of the darkness that had touched her life. Then the nightmares returned, more vivid and terrifying than ever. The Dollmaker's workshop was ablaze, the dolls writhing in flames, their screams echoing through the inferno. Sarah woke with a start, her heart pounding in her chest. Something was wrong. She looked at the doll. Its eyes glowed with an unnatural intensity, a sinister light that seemed to consume the room. Fear, cold and sharp, gripped her. She knew what she had to do. With trembling hands, she packed a bag. She couldn't stay. She had to escape the Dollmaker's curse, no matter the cost. As she stepped out into the night, she glanced back at the house. The Dollmaker stood in the window, his face twisted into a mask of rage. She fled, the wind whipping through her hair, the sound of her footsteps echoing in the night. She didn't look back. She couldn't. But as she drove away, she knew one thing. The Dollmaker would not give up easily. This was just the beginning. Sarah drove for hours, the endless expanse of the highway a blur. The further she got, the safer she felt. Yet a nagging sense of dread accompanied her. The Dollmaker was not a man to be easily defeated. She knew he would find her, no matter how far she ran. She found refuge in a small, secluded town nestled among rolling hills. It was a place untouched by time, where the rhythm of life was slow and gentle. Here, she hoped to find solace, to rebuild her life piece by piece. But the Dollmaker's shadow stretched far and wide. Strange occurrences began to plague the town. Dolls appeared in the most unexpected places, their porcelain eyes staring blankly into the world. People started to disappear, their fates unknown. Fear crept into the hearts of the townspeople. Whispers of a curse, of a malevolent entity, spread like wildfire. And at the center of it all was Sarah, the outsider, the bearer of misfortune. The Dollmaker had found her. Sarah knew she couldn't run forever. He had to confront her fears, to face the evil that had consumed her life. It was time to end this nightmare once and for all. With a heavy heart, she returned to her old house. The place was unchanged, the darkness lingering in the corners. The doll sat on the dresser, its porcelain face a chilling reminder of the horror she had endured. As she approached the doll, a cold dread washed over her. She knew what was coming, but this time she was ready. She had faced her fears, and she would not be defeated. Sarah stood before the doll, her heart pounding in her chest. The porcelain face seemed to mock her, its empty eyes holding a promise of endless torment. She took a deep breath, steeling herself for what was to come. Suddenly, the room erupted in a blinding light. The doll shattered into 1,000 pieces, and a figure emerged from the swirling energy. It was the Dollmaker, not as she remembered him. He was a shadow, grotesque amalgamation of flesh and porcelain. A battle ensued, a clash of wills and spirit. Sarah fought with a ferocity born of desperation. She remembered the countless nights of terror, fear that had consumed her. This was her chance to break free, to end the nightmare once and for all. The Dollmaker's attacks were relentless, his shadow-like form twisting and contorting in unnatural ways. But Sarah was determined. She fought back, her spirit unyielding. With a final, desperate push, she struck a blow that shattered the Dollmaker's form. The room was filled with a sense of peace. The darkness that had clung to the house for so long was gone. Sarah was free. She looked at the shattered remains of the doll. A single piece, tiny fragment of porcelain, caught her eye. It was a heart. With a gentle touch, she picked it up. It was warm to the touch, pulsing with a faint light. As she held the porcelain heart, she felt a connection, strange empathy for the Dollmaker. Perhaps deep down, he had been a victim of his own creation. With a heavy heart, she placed the heart in the remains of the doll. The house seemed to sigh in relief. The darkness was gone, replaced by a soft, ethereal glow. Sarah felt a sense of closure, peace she hadn't experienced in a long time. As she stepped out into the sunlight, she looked back at the house. It stood there, a silent sentinel, a reminder of the darkness she had conquered. And as she drove away, she knew that while the nightmare was over, the memory would stay with her forever. She was stronger now, a survivor, and as long as she carried the light within her, the darkness would never consume her again.
Hey there. Have you ever experienced something you just couldn't explain? Well, you're not alone. Studies show that over 60% of people have encountered a situation that left them feeling uneasy, like they were being watched, or something just wasn't right. Creepy, right? Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Today, we're diving into the spine-chilling world of true scary stories. There's something about these tales that draws us in, making our hearts race and our skin crawl. Whether you're a seasoned horror fan or just a curious soul, these stories have the power to terrify and intrigue. So grab your blanket and turn off those lights because it's about to get spooky. Fear is a primal emotion that we all experience, but what is it that really gets under our skin? True scary stories tap into our deepest anxieties and curiosity, challenging our perception of reality. They make us question the safety of our surroundings and the intentions of those around us. What happens when the familiar becomes the frightening? When that creak in the night isn't just the house settling, but something much more sinister? These stories serve as a mirror, reflecting our fears and pushing us to confront the unknown. They're like a roller coaster ride through our darkest thoughts, leaving us both terrified and fascinated. Alright, let's jump into some of these true scary stories. Our first tale comes from a woman who moved into a quaint old house in a small town. Everything seemed perfect until she started hearing whispers at night. At first, she brushed it off as her imagination, but the whispers grew louder, more insistent. One night, she decided to follow the sound, and what she found in the attic sent chills down her spine. An old diary filled with accounts of a previous occupant who had vanished without a trace. Next up, we have a chilling story about a group of friends camping in the woods. They were having a great time until they noticed strange footprints surrounding their campsite. But what really freaked them out was when they heard someone, or something, moving around their tents at night. The final straw was when one friend went missing, only to be found wandering aimlessly days later, mumbling about the Watchers in the trees. And let's not forget about the urban legend that's haunted many late-night conversations. Tale of the Slender Man. While many think it's just a fictional character, there are numerous accounts of people claiming to have seen a tall, faceless figure lurking in the shadows, watching their every move. From eerie encounters to unsettling sightings, the stories keep piling on, turning what we thought was safe into a realm of fear. Now, let's spotlight the most terrifying moment from one of these stories. Picture this. A woman from the old house, alone one night, hears the whispers again. This time they're louder and more urgent, almost pleading. She grabs a flashlight, heart pounding, and heads toward the attic. As she ascends the creaky stairs, the whispers morph into frantic cries. She pushes open the attic door, and there it is, an old mirror reflecting not only her terrified face, but also a shadowy figure standing behind her. The moment frozen in time, one that leaves the viewer holding their breath. Will she turn around? What's lurking in the darkness? So there you have it, folks. We've explored some truly terrifying tales that remind us of the thin line between reality and the supernatural. These stories tap into our primal fears and leave us questioning what's really out there, lurking just beyond our vision. The impact they have on our psyche is undeniable. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever had a scary experience that still haunts you? Share your stories in the comments below. And don't forget to check out my other horror-themed videos for more spine-tingling content. Until next time, stay safe and keep your lights on.
Something wicked this way comes. Like, share, subscribe to find out what haunts you. Tell us in the comments.